Hey, did you guys know that now there's a virus that you can actually hear?
What? No.
Yeah.
I didn't hear
Is it an earworm?
Sounds like this.
Well played. Well
Was
played.
it? Was it really? I don't think it was. I think that was badly.
Wow.
Bait and switch.
Mhm.
All right, we have some clickbait for this episode. AI used for evil, film at 11.
Doo, doo, doo.
We'll get to that. But first, I think we should lead with this one about MIT and Stanford researchers
Yes.
who developed an operating system with one major promise, resisting ransomware.
Yeah.
Look out Windows, look out Mac OS. Now there's, what is it called?
DBOS.
DBOS.
It's very, very innovative.
Yeah.
DBOS.
DBOS.
So here's the thing. So Linux famously has everything's a file in the file system.
Right.
Like every configuration is a file, and that simplifies things.
I mean, even network connections are a file.
Exactly.
Can be treated like a file. Yeah.
But it also means that there's really no intrinsic security to files. And there's so many different ways to address files that it's led to all the myriad problems we've had.
Yeah.
And so this approach says
Privilege escalation mostly, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and this says that everything's a table. And so databases are pretty good at fine tuning their access controls and their recovery. And so
well, they also have a sentry at the door, right? I mean, it's a sort of a narrow door you can get through to get data, and you have to go through that process.
And so the idea is that not only could it be, a better way to keep things secure, but it also a faster way to recover because you can just roll things back.
All right. So every file is in a database table.
I guess that's the concept. It's MIT, so it's still very, pie in the sky.
Academic.
And academic's a good word for it.
Okay.
But it has promise. And the reason that this is a critical topic to talk about is the future of 10 years from now may not look anything like the present.
Right.
And what we think of as normal and familiar may get superseded by the needs of the systems to be more secure. Security is going to drive what computing looks like in the next decades, I think is the principle here.
I know what things are going to look like in my house in 10 years. I'll be in the sanitarium going blah, 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 in a rubber suit.
They're going to find out where you went and catch you.
Right.
Put a net over you.
I'll go for a walk and never come back. Yeah.
So this is interesting. And what we need to be is open to the change, open to the fact that things aren't always going to be the way they are because the threats are evolving. And we see that in this show every week.
Yeah.
Threats are evolving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, you know what is interesting about this is not necessarily replacing operating systems like, Windows isn't going away, Mac OS isn't going away, but they could take that approach, learn from it and say, yeah, we could do something here and maybe, bump up our ransomware, resilience. Right.
Well, I find it interesting though, because, you talk about databases, and if it's a relational database, they've always had issues at scale. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually addresses that. And then on top of that, we've definitely seen structured databases have the ability to be exploited.
Oh, yeah.
So once you find a way around that narrow door authentication, it's real easy to say update all the tables with, storage file blob equals ransomware. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
So that's true. But so here's the difference, I think. If you have a secure database, it's secured. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're accessing it in the right way, if you're doing all the right things, it's secured. If you have a file system, the files are all independent items that have to be secured and they're not. And so it's basically limits the doorway.
You know what's great about file systems though?
What?
Hey, anytime you get something that hooks into the file system or does that, problems ensue. I'll give you an example. I have Dropbox and I have this thing called Boxifier, which is a product that you can use with Dropbox so that you're able to back up more than just one folder, right? I have multiple drives and I want all those drives to be backed up to Dropbox. And so if I actually record, let's say, record an audio file with Adobe Audition, right, to one of those drives that's being backed up, and then I make a change and I try to save it again, Adobe will say, oh, this file is in use by another process.
Yeah.
And I get that all the time in Visual Studio. We can't build because it's in use by another process, because Boxifier or Dropbox or whatever is back there in the file system, moving
Locking
data.
It. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And I haven't found a way, by the way, if anybody knows how to do this, it's worth $2 at least. I haven't found a way to tell these things to, hey, don't do that right away. Why don't you wait until I'm not using the files?
Right.
And then upload.
Have you tried using OneDrive?
Yes, many times, and I hate it.
Why
I hate it. Oh, I hate that thing. Yeah, OneDrive is even worse because it makes you think that your files are backed up. And then when you go to restore them or copy them back, we only have the file names.
Right. We didn't copy it.
You've been around too long, Carl.
You actually wanted the data? I'm
You've
sorry.
been around too long, Carl. That's the problem. You have the memory.
Well, yeah.
When things were bad.
Yeah.
Because, when you want to back up your drives is usually when your stuff's about to die and you don't have a whole lot of time and it looks like everything's backed up, but it's not.
Right.
And the other thing I hate about OneDrive, I'm like, all right, let's get going here. The gloves are off. The other thing I hate about OneDrive is that it interferes with your documents and all that stuff. And so if you just want to save and pull stuff from a documents folder, oh no, it's in OneDrive documents. And that file is, not on your hard drive anymore. And what's more, if you have two or more computers, now all those files get duplicated on those computers and you really don't have any control over that. I hate this stuff, right? So, but the point is that anything that hooks into the file system, right? That's going to put things in a database, back things up automatically for you. This hasn't been perfected yet. The simple stuff, Boxifier, Dropbox, OneDrive, it just hasn't been perfected.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't stop trying.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, okay. Just stop.
Well, wow. Talk about Luddites.
Let me think about that.
By Luddites.
Let me think about that. Yeah, it does.
So,
no, you're right, Patrick. You're right, Patrick.
You said faster. You said things, the files are fast and that's great.
Yeah.
I think so remember when we used to program in binary? Now, no, none of us really did a lot of binary programming. We're a little bit younger than that.
Speak for yourself, man. I did it yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, we traded the higher level languages. In taking on to higher level languages, instead of running in machine language, we're traded processing power and speed for ease of use. And I see it coming that we're going to have to do the same thing for security. We're going to have to trade speed and power for better security.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the price of that. So I think you're right. File systems are fast, but systems have gotten steadily faster and faster and faster. And do you notice the difference between 3 milliseconds and 4 milliseconds? Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know.
And so the question is, have we gotten to a point where we can legitimately trade some of that performance to actually get some behind the scenes built-in security? Because one of the problems is we talk about this a lot. We say, well, if you build a house and then you want to put security features into it, it's going to be much more expensive, much more difficult. That's the way Windows is. That's the way Linux is as well. They built the house and then they said, we really should have some security features.
There should be a door on there.
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't, let the serial killers in automatically. And so we're not in a situation where we're going to redesign everything from the ground up because of backward compatibility. But eventually that's not going to be tenable. Eventually we're going to have to pay the price of, getting security into the systems.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good example of the out of the box thinking that we need to see more of.
I agree. And like I said before, these operating systems aren't going away, obviously, but maybe the operating system people can learn from it. At least Boxifier should. Come on. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have an axe to grind. I can tell.
I do. It just affects my day-to-day workload and I can't find a way around it and it's frustrating. I should ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT will be like,
oh, you should.
I thought you would. You're good friends now.
ChatGPT will be like, what's Boxifier? All right. What's next?
Paper cut.
Paper cut.
Ooh, I got a paper cut.
Which nobody wants. Wait, no, paper cut's a thing.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, and no one wants a paper cut.
All right. What is paper cut anyway?
So paper cut is a print management software. So think like print server, but sophisticated and does all sorts of magical things.
All right. So it's like an IT tool because most people don't have a print server.
Yeah, I know. Shoot, most people haven't had a print server in a long time. Although, if you think about it, every printer has a print server already on it. But semantics, right?
All right.
But what's interesting about this is there's an exploit that right now is being widely used. Although, according to Shodan, there's only 1,700 exposed paper cut servers on the internet. But this is more if somebody were to breach inside of an organization and they found a paper cut server. Which statistically is about 100 million users, 70,000 companies worldwide using this software.
Wow.
This is a remote code vulnerability.
Have you hacked a paper cut server, Dwayne?
I can't confirm or deny that I have hacked.
I don't think we have. I think we've.
Yes, let's go with no.
Okay, I like no.
Let's go with no. Yeah, so I mean the RCE is pretty simple. There's a Metasploit module out there that you can use to catch a shell from it. So it's.
Did you say what the exploit allowed attackers to do?
Yes, this is remote code execution at the system level. So that means full control.
I was going to point out that you said RCE and Carl just let it ride.
I know. I was thinking of a paper cut joke, really.
I know. I think we're training him.
We're co-opting you now.
I know, right?
You now all the acronyms.
I'm becoming acronym complacent here.
That's right.
All right.
All right. So
it's that like lactose intolerant.
It's kinda.
All right. So if you have a paper cut server, you would know it because you're an IT guy.
Because it hurts really bad.
Yeah.
And is there a patch?
There is. Yep. So, honestly, if you have a paper cut server and you're running versions less than 21.7, 21.22, 22.09, 21.2.11. So if you're running anything less than those versions, you're going to want to go update. So there's an update that will fix it.
We should call the exploit vinegar.
Oof, lemon juice.
Paper cut. Yeah, lemon juice. Acid on a paper cut.
That's mean.
It is.
Yeah, so this is our go patch segment. So if you're running paper cut, go patch.
Yeah, okay. Okay, critical infrastructure also hit by supply chain attack behind 3CX breach. First of all, remind us what last month's 3CX breach was.
Yeah, so we had talked about it when this came out on Security This Week. So 3CX is a voice over IP software,
right?
That used by a gazillion people. That's a very technical statistic there. Many organizations use this software.
I like gazillion music. It's got a nice beat.
It's awesome.
Dun, 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 dun,
very
dun.
very techno. Yeah. So, needless to say, they're dubbing kind of a supply chain issue because people have the software, then getting exploited using this particular software through an issue in there. Yeah.
We talked about that this is a supply chain infecting other supply chains. So there's a cascading supply chain issues. I think I don't know, maybe we haven't talked about that.
Cascading supply chain
But basically
issues.
You get into a situation where a supplier gets hacked.
Yeah.
They're used by other suppliers. So their customers also get hacked.
Right.
And I think this was the first example. 3CX was the first example where they saw a supply chain that infected another supply chain that then infected their customers.
So interesting that it's a North Korean backed threat group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they've,
Can somebody please take that guy out? Please just disappear him. I think that's what the kids call it, right? He needs to be disappeared.
Right. Patrick needs to whip out the tomahawks.
Come on, Patrick.
Yeah, throw him from here.
Anyway,
so this one's interesting and just sort of shows when, like, for example, we announced this. I think it was about a month ago now.
Yeah.
That there was the 3CX issue, and we said, "Hey, go out and patch. There's a patch for it that'll fix it." You're probably not the only people listening to Security This Week. There's, I think, Kim Jong-un sitting there listening to Security This Week.
There's at least 3 other people.
We should, Grandma, North Korea,
and Uncle Kim.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, you know what? This isn't patched. We should go use it. So I think, you'll see these things when we see these things hit the market and we say, this is kind of an important thing. You need to worry about it. This is why. This is the issue that may then come later on is somebody's going to find this on the internet, realize they're going to create a 1 day, right? So remember, a 0 day is when an exploit's out there and it has not been patched.
Well, it hasn't been documented or discovered, right? That's what a 0 day is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a 1 day is when they've released a patch or at least explained a mitigation for a particular issue. And then smart people out there go, oh, hey, I can figure out what the issue was. They go recreate the issue in their own lab and then start using it.
Now, that's different. What do they call it when you wait for the patch and then reverse engineer the patch? That's a 5 day?
That's a 1 day.
Is that
that's Monday for Dwayne?
That's a Monday.
Yeah, that's Tuesday. No. Yeah, no. That's still a 1 day because it's like the world knows about it now. There is a fix for it now. But reverse engineering the patch will tell everybody on the planet how to exploit it. And so if there's a patch out, it's almost a blueprint to how to exploit that software. And that's why we say patch, because if the patch is out there, that means that most nation states then know how to exploit whatever that software is.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And hey, guess what? We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back after these important messages. Don't go away. And we're back. You're listening to Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Patrick Hines, the Patch Man, and Dwayne LaFlotte, the Bad Man. And I'm Carl Franklin, the WTF Man.
The Music Man.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Doo-loo.
All right. Our old friend WordPress is in the news again.
Oh, you know what? We haven't talked about WordPress in a while. It's like it went away for a little bit.
I don't think it missed us.
In a while. We talk about it every week.
I know. Yeah. That's what I said. It's been 7 days.
But it didn't miss us.
It's been 7 days.
It seems so long since we've talked WordPress.
Or WordPress.
Honestly, I feel bad for WordPress. But hey, if you're in the top of the hill, people are gonna try and knock you over.
This isn't necessarily about WordPress, and as all the WordPress issues are about their plugins. And this is one that was abandoned. I guess that the developer of the plugin just stopped updating it, right?
Yes.
And so it's now being used as a backdoor.
Yeah, which I find fascinating because it's like, well, the developer abandoned it, and I don't think it was like last week. I think it was like a decade ago.
Sure.
That the developer abandoned this particular plugin, but still out there, still being used on sites. And some enterprising attacker said, "Oh my gosh, there's this thing that's 10 years old sitting on people's websites. Let me see if I can do something with it." And this is a straight up PHP injection into the eval PHP plugin.
Wow.
Now, this plugin, somebody had to install WordPress and choose this plugin to install, or is it somehow installed by default, do we think?
No. This is if you were looking for the functionality for this plugin, you would have downloaded it and had to have installed it. It's not a default.
Right. So that means that people are actively finding these things. So my question, and I'm not a WordPress guy, is there should be something in this ecosystem that lets you know whether it's actively under development or not, or maybe you just look for when the last patch was. And if it's 10 years ago, maybe you think twice.
Or if it's 1 year ago, you should think twice, And
I'd say,
well, if you find a can of paint from the 50s, it's probably got lead in it. Maybe you shouldn't use that.
So lick it.
Yeah. Well, if you find a can of paint in your garage, that's from last year. I'm throwing it out.
Right. Right. Well, so, all right. So there are a lot of tools specifically for WordPress. The first thing I would say is good WordPress hygiene. Go in and see all of the different themes that you have that you're not using or have never used and remove them, right? Because you can set up different WordPress themes.
Right.
Actually, that's my go-to when I break into a WordPress website is I will then go to a theme, edit the footer, and add my own custom PHP code so I can get a reverse shell and start spitting out information, that sort of stuff.
Well, there you go.
All right, there you go. There's some
criminal career
Shouldn't
advice.
there be some music for that?
Right.
I don't,
All right, okay, all right.
It's criminal career advice.
All right. So what's the plan here? Just get rid of it? If you use eval PHP, get rid of it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as good sort of WordPress hygiene as WordPress is one of the most attacked sort of web platforms.
Right.
If you're not using a plugin, get rid of it. And that doesn't just count for this. So go through your WordPress plugins, make sure they're all up to date. B, if they're ones you're not using anymore or used in the past and don't need, remove them. But C, I would also say there's a tool that us hackers use all the time called WP Scan. WP Scan is a WordPress scanning tool, and it's free to use. And you can point it at your WordPress website, and it will tell you, are the plugins out of date? Is there a known exploit for them?
Wow.
So honestly, I would say use WP Scan. Make it scan your website once a week. Figure out whether there's, your plugins are out of date or exploitable.
That's very good. I mean, because if you can learn the tools, the hacker tools, you can use them to defend yourself because you can understand. That's what a pen test is. A pen test,
right.
A red team, and a vulnerability assessment. All those are just different levels of check my stuff to see if it's vulnerable so I can fix it before the bad guys come in and exploit it.
All right. I added a link to WP Scan, but it's really just WPScan.com. No link necessary.
Yeah, and it's a great utility. It'll do things like brute force usernames and passwords on your site.
Wow.
It will go through and check see if there's a backup config kicking around that you can pull down.
And for the low price of
free.
Right.
Free.
Yeah,
and
tools.
there's an interesting API. You can take their get an API token from them, and I think you get like 10 or 20 free scans a day or something like that, and it gives you even more detailed information. So if you're just have one WordPress site and you're looking to scan it and make sure it's okay, sign up with them. It's free, costs you nothing. You get an API key, you can plug it into your scanner, and you can scan every day if you wanted to and see if there's any vulnerabilities on your site.
You can scan if you want to. You can leave your friends behind because your friends don't scan. And if they don't scan, well, they're no friends of mine. I'll say,
now we can get away with that because you did a parody, right? We're not going to get sued because it was a parody.
Plus, I sang it. Come on, it's not a recording.
See? Yeah, it's perfect. Until it plays as a podcast, then it's a recording.
Yeah, until we start charging money for our podcast and making more than $1 a month.
Well, it was a parody. So I'm sticking by that.
I'll say.
If you want Carl to stop singing, support us with Patreon.
All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
I did not rehearse that, folks. Okay, can we move on to Mandiant?
Let's do it.
All right. Who wants this one?
Patrick does.
Patrick. Over to you, Patrick.
So, we talk a lot about exploits and people like getting phished and doing the wrong thing, social engineering stuff, because that's common and it's a big way that people get on.
Right.
But what we don't talk about a lot is misconfiguration. Misconfiguration is a big part of why hackers get in.
She was my fourth grade English teacher, by the way. Misconfiguration.
Misconfiguration.
No, she was the librarian.
So Mandiant reported that a cloud server misconfiguration led to a DC Health Link breach. And so this is a breach that wasn't because someone got phished. It wasn't because someone got socially engineered. It's because an engineer didn't set things up the way they should have. And so now here's the thing. I don't want to throw engineers under the bus because they're overworked.
I do.
Let's
do
what?
That.
So of all the professions in the technical space, the most harried job there is network administrator.
Yeah.
I've very rarely met a network administrator who wasn't running around like their hair was on fire all the time.
And you know what? If they do their job, nobody knows because everything just works.
Yeah, nobody knows who they are.
The only time they want attention is pull out a network cable. The phone rings every time.
Right. And they're always underfunded and there's always these stories that say you didn't do your job and stuff.
Yeah.
They need support.
Yes, they need your support, kids.
They need help. And they need to be double checked by someone outside the organization.
Buy them lunch and tell them how awesome it is that everything runs so smoothly.
Right. And then tell them to double check their configuration because they left something open.
Yeah. I feel bad though, because every time we do a pen test or a red team against an organization, I'd say at least 70% of the time it comes down to a misconfiguration. Like there's part of times it was patching and part of times we had to invent something, but 70% of the time it's like, oh, you didn't check this box.
Right.
One
of the most common ones we're seeing right now is one that you can exploit with something called the coercer and petit potem, which is
English, please.
I think it was English.
Just kidding.
So, you know, in the
Sounded a
hacker
little French
world,
to me.
You know who was the most famous misconfigurator of all? It was Schrodinger, because he couldn't check the box.
No, right? Every time he looked in, it was different.
Wow.
Okay. Never mind.
Was that a quantum joke? So anyways.
No, that was not a joke.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm just
moving
kidding.
They're
away
not
from
laughing
that
with
train
me.
wreck.
They're laughing at me.
Right. So honestly, when we run into a lot of environments, there's a lot of misconfigurations. And sometimes when we report on them, the customer or the network administrator gets very defensive. And it's hard to get it right every single time and be an expert in every system.
Okay.
So I got to
tell a
network
story.
administrator to do that.
I got to tell a story. It's a Dwayne story. So
Great.
we'll like this.
You get my popcorn.
Many moons ago, we're talking about 15 plus years ago, we were dealing with a customer who was maniacal about security, no names. So much so that they were
Bob.
they questioned everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And they were so proud of the way they did things. They literally didn't let anybody in the organization send email except the CTO.
What?
Yep.
They sent so little email out that every day he would send out any emails that people needed from a different system. They were completely isolated from the internet, and it was amazing.
Do we have things like Gmail 15 years ago? I don't even remember.
We did, but this guy implemented. I think I can talk about it now. This guy implemented a system called Panama.
I don't know if you should talk about the full details,
right, I won't talk about
because I want to talk about the lobby system that you checked. Because they had the way they had it is they had kiosk systems in the lobbies.
Okay.
In the common areas that you could go to if you needed to access the internet. And they were so proud of how locked down they were.
Yeah.
That nobody could ever get admin or even a command shell. And so they challenged Dwayne, bad move, challenged Dwayne to get a command prompt of any kind.
Okay.
And they turned their back to talk to me, and then they turned around and he had a command prompt. And then they're like, what happened? And then he's like, oh, I
know
just
who
did.
I am.
I know, but it gets worse. It gets better / worse. So then they're like, oh, that must have been, he told them how he got it.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, well, I know I fixed that. I think I use this other system. I just did this yesterday, and I know it's completely correct.
Secure.
And he turns to me again and he says, that was just a misstep. And he turns around and Dwayne's got a command prompt again. He's like, what the hell? And so then he's like,
have you met me?
Wait a minute. I'm gonna go back, and so we continue the tour, and we go back, and we go, he calls us to his lab, and he's like, look, I just rebuilt this one. I went through, I closed the 2 loopholes that you showed me.
I shut everything down.
You're not, I shut things down that people actually need.
Yeah.
And then literally he wouldn't take his eyes off Dwayne.
Like a magician.
And then I asked him a question. He turned around, and by the time he turned back, Dwayne had a command prompt. And he's like, what are you doing?
And it's so awesome.
Some of them were like, he'd go to help, and in help, he'd look up command prompt or notepad, and it would give you a link.
Yeah, Microsoft Help would be like, oh, do you want to launch one? Just click here. So I would click there, and then it would launch a command prompt for me. Yeah, there's all sorts of ways to get onto a system and start manipulating.
And so he was
So
like,
funny.
It was whack-a-mole.
Yeah, right. And
But
it's
the
the irony, though, because he basically made the whole thing inoperable for everybody else.
Yeah.
Took away everybody's convenience, and it wasn't secure.
This one issue. Right.
Yeah. And it was, the other thing was it was being tested by his users, which meant that they weren't actually in the mode or qualified to see whether it was thing. So it was interesting. That was we'll probably have other stories from that company, but let's save Panama for a later day.
Yes.
I thought you were going to talk about the story where I had this one developer. I was leading a secure development project, and I had this one developer from a customer who was the head developer, who argued with me for like 20 minutes that I was explaining how to do encryption.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, no, it's wrong. What you're talking about is wrong. You should be doing it in this other way. I have this article from this author, and he started going through this article from this author on how to do cryptography and blah, 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 properly, and that sort of stuff. No.
I didn't write that article.
And I was like, I get it. And he's like, no. But what he's saying here, what this author is saying, you should do this. And I was like, okay, cool. Scroll up. And he scrolls to the top, and I'm like, who's the author? And he's like, and he looks, and it's my name.
That's great.
And I'm like, okay, so Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I know that guy. I can.
You misunderstood what I was saying.
Let me walk you through
that's so great.
Story I thought you were going to go with.
So awesome. All right, so that brings us to our clickbait story, which is
clickbait.
Arizona mom says daughter's voice was cloned with AI in a $1 million kidnapping hoax.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She answered a call from an unknown number and heard her daughter's voice on the other end stating that she had been kidnapped. It later turned out to be a scam.
What?
Holy crap. If that doesn't
deep fake
give you, yeah. And, all right. So
did they pay any? I don't think they paid any money, did they?
Let's see.
I think they discounted it because the family's like, keep her.
Yeah. He demanded $1 million before lowering it to $50,000.
And the
$1 million.
And the family said
$50,000.
I'll pay you $20 to keep her.
And here's the funny thing: she was apparently upstairs in her room going, "What's going on?"
So I told you guys about self-kidnapping, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So this is one of those ones where the hackers are trying to, have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to get the money without getting any of the jail time or the risk because they're not going to get caught most likely.
Right.
Well, and
but we can expect more of this.
It amazes me with these types of deep fakes. It's getting the training model is getting better and better and better. It used to be like you could do this with a well-known personality, and we've all seen. Morgan Freeman. We've all seen the really good Morgan Freeman one. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet.
I think I have, yeah.
It's awesome.
Because they have so many hundreds or thousands of hours of him speaking.
Right. So it's really easy to take whatever somebody types or says and have the model say it, and it sounds exactly like him. So this is where it's surprising for someone like this lady's daughter. Like
maybe she's a TikTok star.
The models are getting much better, but it could be that she has a YouTube channel or a TikTok or whatever, and people are then just taking all of those, putting them in the training model, and then can get them to say or do anything they want them to do. So yeah, that's
is a new privacy nightmare for everybody.
One of the first times I heard about this was on Radiolab, and I'm going to post a link to a show, but I don't think this is the actual one. This was called Breaking Bongo, about it says deepfake videos have the potential to make it impossible to sort fact from fiction, and some have argued that this black hole of doubt will eventually send truth itself into a death spiral. But a series of this is 2019. It's currently in a death spiral. But a series of recent events in the small African nation of Gabon suggest it's already happening. And so, using tweets, videos, and the uncertainty they can carry, insurgents test the limits of using truth to create political change and confusingly force us to ask, can fake news be used for good?
Yeah. And it's going to be hard.
Yeah. So the first one was called Breaking News. And this is the first time I heard about Adobe's, deepfake stuff that they had, and they basically showed it at a conference, and people were so freaked out. They got up and they were demanding that Adobe not release it.
Wow.
Essentially.
Oh, I did see that.
Essentially, It was a real-time phoneme, synthesizer. So you could just take, some audio that you were editing of somebody talking, and you really want to make them say X. So you type the sentence that that you want them to say. It samples all the phonemes in the current audio file, and it actually synthesizes together them saying that sentence. And then they went further and did it with video. But this was a few years ago. It was before 2019. I'm sure it was like 2016, 2017. And people were just freaked out about it.
And that's really just a delaying action, because if you keep companies from releasing this kind of stuff, how much time does that buy us before just the bad guys have it?
Yeah.
And so it's really not going to prevent anybody from developing this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's a chicken and egg kind of thing. I mean, there's lots of technologies that people thought would destroy the world and unhinge it. We just have to, we have to be prepared for the new reality is the key. And
all right. So obviously you got to use your brain. The mom knew that the daughter was upstairs in her room, and, but she was freaked out enough to be led. And what if she wasn't? What if the daughter had just gone off to, sleepover or something,
Yeah.
Right.
Or camping or away at college and on a school trip.
But if it was me, I would have called her.
Right.
And say, hey, are you okay? And when she says, yeah, I'm fine, then I guess that would be it.
Yeah.
All right. Be careful out there, kids. Use your brain.
Well, you can't blame the kid. We don't know really.
Well,
whether the kid
kids,
had
listeners.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Just use your head. And if you use your head, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
You get to survive another week.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Bye-bye now.